take away from his work, it's that the closer a even is to an individual, the more control that even can have over that individual. And they say, from a distance, a planetary distance or whatever, there is they can nudge someone by inserting thoughts in their dreams and so forth, these types of crazy things. That's something Nikola Tesla said happened to him. If a UAP or an even gets, let's say, within 40 feet of you, they can immobilize you. This is according to what we have on file as far as evidence. Now, Dr. Jacobs has brought it to the point where one of the things they do is during abductions, and this will go over in the video, is they get within 1 inch or even closer of the abductee, the even will, eye to eye, and at this distance, this short distance, they can plant screen memories, they can manipulate the thoughts and emotions of the person, and they can also program the person to do things, even things that are against their will. So, David Jacobs thinks that this power that they have, or skill that they have, is an existential threat to humanity. And if you think about it, it is one of the emotions they do create in abductees sometimes is a feeling of love, and that is a chemical reaction in the brain. They may be affecting a chemical reaction in the brain. There may be a magnetic component to this. They say that some of the evens have a technology implanted in them. In other words, a circuit board in their brain. This may be part of it as well. I think there's some research now about using magnetic influences on brains and treating depression, for example. So this may be an example. But I think those are two key things to know about David Jacobs. Anyone who is interested in UAPs or really good science fiction needs to watch his books. Visit his website, is excellent, and watch his videos, because he has covered everything, and he has a look at this whole UAP totality, theory of everything on the UAP issue that you need to consider. I'm going to go over it in this video. I'm going to try not to make it too long. This is UAP. I hope you guys like the program. These are cliff notes on David M. Jacobs' G.O.A.T. on abductions, greatest of all time, the last surviving. This is following the introduction with the basic information. Let me just go through some key points about David M. Jacobs and what he has discovered. First of all, hybrids, the alien plus human DNA beings. They're hybrids of both DNA. On that, a sexual component has been known since the first abduction in 1957. From the very first abduction, there was a sexual component and a reproductive component. Jacobs worked with Bud Hopkins, who is an artist from New York, and John Mack, who is a PhD from Harvard. Initially, all three of them worked on the abduction issue, and John Mack and Bud Hopkins have passed away. John Mack received some big accolades in his work. But David M. Jacobs has been plugging along now for 40 years, I believe. And he is now partially retired. I'm going to put a blurb in here about his webpage showing the URL. Support him by buying his books from his webpage. He deserves our support. He's done a lot of work on this topic that's really critical. Let's move on to the next page here. Now, Jacobs has done advanced scientific study of UAP abductions since the 1970s. So 1,100 events, more than 1,100 events. And he is a PhD, and he has followed a strict scientific method on this. And his analysis of the data has been very strict. Okay, so this is reliable a data as you can get on this topic. Now, you ask, how long have UAPs been doing abductions? According to Jacobs, absolutely since the 1920s. Before that, in the 1890s, probably. But absolutely since the 1920s. So that's 123 years. Now, and Jacobs, when he did his work, some people said he used hypnosis. He explained it as not being hypnosis, but rather relaxing technique to overcome these screen memories, the secrecy that is induced by the alien abductors. He said that 95% of the people that are abductees don't know they've been abducted. Only 5% have a conscious memory of abduction, and usually the details they remember aren't accurate. Now, there are physical evidence of abductions. For example, waking up with a broken arm. Go to bed with a regular arm, wake up with a broken arm. Or waking up without a scar on your arm, going to bed without a scar on your arm, and waking up with a fully formed scar on your arm. Both of these cases have been seen by Jacobs. So this is eyewitness evidence. So these are real events of some type. So let's just move on here. Abduction runs through generations of families and is a global phenomenon. So this takes place all over the planet Earth, and it runs through families. For example, if your parents were an abductee, you're going to be an abductee. And your children are going to be an abductee. And perhaps, I'm pretty sure that whoever your children marry are likely to be abductees too. So this follows generational lines. There hasn't been any motivation identified for this other than it's probably easier that way for the aliens, the evens. Now, this is a global phenomenon. All abductees report the same experience, no matter their location. Doesn't matter where they are. Doesn't matter if they know each other. Doesn't matter if they've ever heard of abductions before. Doesn't matter if they're into UFOs, if they're not into UFOs. They all report the same thing. Being brought into a ship, being put into a paralytic state, and then being shuffled around inside, laid down on a table, techniques to extract reproductive things are done, and sometimes there's some training, but it is a very rote system. It is repetition. Jacobs believes that the workforce on board these UFOs are clones. And we're going to go into this a little bit later. Let me just move on to the next page here. Now, during the abduction, abductees report that grays, mantis insectolan beings, and reptilian aliens are present, and also different levels of hybrids and hybrids. And this would include, what he calls security hybrids, perhaps the Nordics. What Jacob's conclusion has been is that the only original aliens are the mantis or insectolan aliens, and these have been reported in a number of different scenarios. They are the master. They run everything, and their entire workforce, which includes all of these various aliens, are clones that they have created, either of other races they have conquered or combinations of races they have abducted. So, the implication is that this abduction and hybridization program has been going on a long time in a lot of different places. So, it's, concerning. The numbers, when Jacobs was asked what the number was, and they have done some mathematical studies on basic abductions and so forth, one of the numbers they came up was 10%. And then they lowered that to 5%. And then Jacobs published 2%. But he said 2% is probably too low. He's very conservative. He's a professor. He is, going with information that has been proved by scientific study and so forth. He said a good number is probably 5% of global population, which is 350 million abductions on planet Earth by this consortium of mantis and their clone workforce. 350 million. Okay? Certainly enough to, at some point, make a dent in what's going on the planet. When these abductees are brought on to the UAP, table procedures are always the same, no matter where they are abducted, what language they speak. So, and Jacobs has talked to people from all over the world. They get a foot and a spinal nerve exam, and this Jacobs has discovered is to verify sexual function, and basically that's the only exam they get. This is followed by sperm and egg extractions. Fertilized zygotes are inserted into female abductees, perhaps at a later visit, and then removed at 10 weeks. They are abducted again. The fetuses are removed at 10 weeks and moved into fluid-filled tanks on the UAP. So they're brought on. The material is taken from them. It is recombined, inserted, then after 10 weeks brought back on and removed to these hybridization farms they have inside these UFOs, and some of them are quite massive, 300 or more of these containers with zygotes in them, and kind of frightening numbers here. But again, this is the same thing that happens everywhere with everyone. And by the way, the aliens are not very talkative. They don't say anything, and they don't really care about what the humans think or anything. They just say, relax, this isn't going to hurt, we're not going to hurt you, things of this nature. There's never any meaningful conversation, at least during these abduction events. Next page here. And I have this in red type here. Over 100 years that they've been doing this, the EBs have gradually made it to full human appearance of hybrids. This is the term Jacobs has coined for hybrids. They are human hybrids, hybrids. These hybrids are indistinguishable from humans in appearance at this point, but half alien. So it took them 100 years of iterations and evolution, if you will, to do this. But they've, at this point, right now, they can produce these hybrids that are half alien and indistinguishable physically from humans. And abductees will birth hybrids and will be programmed to help hybrids integrate on Earth. Okay, so there is no free will in any of this. This is all programmed. Okay, all of this is universal, no matter the location. So resistance is futile. Okay. Abductions are a lifelong event for abductees from childhood. I think 11 was one age mentioned, even earlier than that, to the late 70s. That is when abductions stop. So this is 350 million people experiencing this as a lifelong event on the planet. According to Jacobs, again, you can take this into your own mind and decide whether you want to believe it or look at it as science fiction. In any case, it's a shocking concept. Moving on to the next page here. There are different levels of hybrids according to Jacobs, and it's based on appearance, and it's based on how human-like they appear. Some of them look mostly like aliens. Some of them look weirdly with alien eyes and human heads. Some of them look like hairless, tall aliens. So all these evolutionary ranks are represented and have been seen by abductees, all the way up to the present form of a indistinguishable hybrid. This is a long-range alien program. Again, it's been underway for 100 years. It's been estimated that these insectulans have very long lifespans. So 100 years is, 2 weeks to them, just to put it in perspective. Right now, hybrids are living among humans on Earth, according to Jacobs. And I'll go through this later. They are average looking in every way. They're average in every way, I should say, and they're average looking, that is. So their appearance, if you had a lineup and you said pick the hybrid, just from looking at them, you couldn't do it. When the hybrids are brought to Earth from the UAP, they must be taught everything because they have been, raised or grown on a UAP. They don't know what a spoon is. They don't know what a plate is. They don't know how to shop at Walmart. So human abductees that are paired with these hybrids are programmed, and this is against their will, or they have no will in this. They are programmed by the Ebens, the gray Ebens, by close face-to-face contact within 1 inch. They're programmed to help these guys adapt. They take them to Walmart at 2 o'clock in the morning and show them how to buy stuff, and take them to McDonald's and so forth. Everything. Teach them how to park. Teach them how to drive a car. And again, this is not a willful act on the part of the abductees. And they're not even really aware they're doing it. Jacobs has said, and I'll just do an aside here, he said, he's talking to An abductee meets on a regular basis, and he goes, "Yeah, I got a new friend, and he's really nice, and we go places and do things, and yet the abductee Jacobs is working with doesn't know the guy's name, doesn't know his birthday, doesn't know how old he is, doesn't know where he's from. This is what's going on, according to Jacobs." Okay, 1,100 studies over 40 years. Let's move on to the next page. And again, they are training these hybrids, and this is against their will, or it's not a willful action. Okay, and there are many instances of this happening. Okay, again, 350 million abductions. Now, this is in red here. This is kind of shocking. Jacobs knows actual geographic locations where these hybrids live. Abductees associated with these hybrids are his study participants. All this is relatively close to his home location. He says that he went on a stakeout one night. A location, an exact location was revealed to him by one of his people he is counseling, and he staked him out, and he was there for 5 hours, and he had cameras and everything, but he was in a school zone in a private neighborhood, and he was afraid that he might end up getting arrested, so he called it off. So this is, this, again, he knows the location. I'm sure that he could work this out. There are instances where the hybrids have told the abductees that are training them not to share information with Jacobs. Jacobs has also received odd telephone messages about not sharing or not divulging this information or interfering. You can look that up on your own. That's an aside. But very, very strange things going on. Again, this is all in secret. This is secrecy at the highest level. It's not anything that's out in the open. And if you saw it happening, I mean, physical appearance-wise, you wouldn't know. Maybe you might see that, these hybrids were kind of stupid, but you might misinterpret that as something else. So, anyway, hybrids cannot be distinguished from humans. So, not in a physical sense. Next page. In addition to programming humans, aliens can switch off a human. They can get you to go to sleep. When they're within 40 feet of a human, abductee or not, this does not matter. They can, immobilize you, get you to go to sleep, and blank out your memory. Many times these abductees are taken from their beds with their spouse next to them, who would not be an abductee for whatever reason, and that person would be totally switched off and asleep while this was happening, while this person was gone, and wake up the next morning and not have any memory of this abduction taking place with their spouse. Abductees, and there are records of this, and Jacobs has documented this, are physically missing during abduction periods. Okay, so this is a real phenomenon. They, have gone over people's schedules and so forth, and they are missing during these periods. And again, the partner may be switched off during this time, for example, and not be aware of them being missing. Okay. Now, it says, we said that abduction started in the 20s. According to Jacobs, they really picked up in the 40s. Okay. And large numbers of people started being abducted in the 40s, which coincides with Roswell and World War II and the atom bomb. Who knows? But that's one statistic. Let's move on here. Jacobs does not know why this abduction phenomenon is happening based on study evidence. Okay? The motive, they know what's happening, they know what the result is, but they don't know what the motive for this is secret. His conjecture is planetary acquisition. Okay? This is what he feels is going on. This agrees with the Allies of Humanity writings in my last video. You can check that video out. And the shocking thing is, this is his conjecture. This is his main thesis or main hypothesis. He has several, but this is his main one. And it's important to note he's very conservative. He's a PhD. He is very conservative in making these kind of statements, and that is a big deal for him to say that. Okay. Now, Jacobs dismisses message abductions. Okay. People saying that they have received messages from EVs and channeling the spiritual aspect of EVs. And this, again, agrees with the Allies of Humanity information. He says during abductions, during interface between EVs and humans, there's basically no communication at all. Just lay down, everything will be fine, everything will be all right. The aliens have no interest in human art, government, sociology, really hardly any interest at all in the physicality or the physical makeup of the humans, other than the reproductive methods and so forth. And this implies that maybe they don't have plans. They don't have future plans. They don't have many plans for us. Okay. Again, great science fiction, or if you want to believe it, up to you. Also, Jacobs talks about MyLab. Now, military abductions are MyLab abductions, and there are individuals that claim that they have been abducted by aliens, and then the following abduction or another abduction or just a random abduction will be by U.S. military personnel, okay? And they are abducted by what appears to be guys in camo, military uniforms and black military service, BDU, so forth. And that these are humans, and they speak English and everything, and that what these individuals are claiming, and there's a whole field of study on this, is that the military also has a program of abduction, which is, the people are abducted, they're debriefed, and so forth, and whether this is true or not, Jacob says in the abductions he has studied, the 1,100 over 40 years, the military, the human military, not involved at all in any way. He said these abductions, these MyLab abductions, are performed by security hybrids. There are different types of hybrids, human hybrids. There are security hybrids that are like military police, okay, that guard and do security for other hybrids, okay, and they also do this on board the UAP when humans are on board and so forth. And there are companion hybrids, which are a familiar face and always around when abductees are abducted, and they may visit them in their home and so forth. But just making the point here that according to Jacobs, these MyLabs, these are security U-Brits doing this. So they are imitating the U.S. military in this case, because they speak English and so forth. I think perhaps maybe other militaries too. So Jacobs has said that, basically all the aliens were in touch with, I would say that his list of aliens on board these UAPs and interacting with these people are the majority of the aliens we're aware of. And now he's saying that these MyLabs also are aliens. So this abduction phenomenon could account for a very large majority of this alien Eben phenomenon. Perhaps not all of it, but certainly 100-year massive global secret program being undertaken by a cloned workforce with total secrecy and with alien control of human subjects. So as Jacob says, these guys, they can control us, but we can't control them. Now, according to Jacobs, insect-like aliens are running these operations, and the Linda Moulton Howe was given a briefing, and she's worked out a map of the Milky Way and so forth, and she believes that she has identified a race like this called the Tranthaloids, I believe. It's a galaxy east of the Milky Way. It's relatively close. These are hostile towards humans. So this does intersect with other research. All right. So hybrids now, the aliens can control humans, okay, with this close contact. Hybrids, which are the human-alien hybrids, can also control humans. They can direct their actions, and they can cause them to forget things, blank out, just as the aliens do. So this could be against the individual's will. They have no will as to whether they will do these actions or not. And Jacobs feels that now we have the aliens who can do this. Now they have cloned this new race of hybrids, and although they are on this, they look like humans, but they're half alien, and they can control humans, and the humans cannot control them. And this again goes hand in hand with the Allies of Humanity documentation. Now, we talked about further in a couple pages ago about what is the purpose of all this, because no one, when the abductees ask a hybrid, what is their purpose on Earth? Why is this being done? Why are they here? And the answer they get from the hybrid is to live here. There's no explanation of what the ultimate goal is. None of the off-world or UAP constituents of this have revealed any information as to what the purpose of this massive undertaking is. This ongoing, regular abduction, regular DNA mixing and producing of these beings. Jacobs does not, in my research so far, estimate how many hybrids are on Earth. Now, he has books on this topic, which I have not read. However, they are definitely here. So this is a massive global, this is industrial in scale Okay, hi, Bubba. That's, the cat has walked into the room. This is industrial in scale and a global undertaking. I mean, this is like, I don't even know if there's a human effort that's akin to this. So, this is 350 million people. And their hybrid offspring and hybrid offspring. The numbers are very big here. And again, this goes along completely with the allies of humanity. I'm going to put a link up here somewhere. Watch for the links in the top of during this presentation on that video. So definitely something to think about. I mean, this is Jacobs has analyzed over 1,100 abduction events, and these are real physical events, as he says. And he has come up with numbers, and this is all done, in a clinical, PhD study setting with discipline and disciplined routines and disciplined information gathering. Okay. And what Jacob says is, I wish I had not discovered this. He is upset by the whole notion of it. Now, at the end, he had hoped that, this would be an enlightening experience, and instead he feels it's a very dark experience. So, again, you can choose to believe this or not, or in any case, as I always say, it's the best science fiction. Okay? Now, Jacobs says there is no normal scholarly study of this topic at all. So there are 350 million people being affected by this, according to Jacobs' work, and absolutely no formal scholarly study of this. Okay? Jacobs edited and published in 2000 a peer-reviewed study in a professional journal. This is a PhD publication that was reviewed before it was published in a professional journal. 10 PhDs were writing on this subject, and I think one MD. And he published this, and this was evidentiary, and gave numbers and what was going on, and what study had been done, and this publication was completely ignored by the global academic profession. So Jacobs is concerned by this as well. He says that the ridicule and everything that's been afforded UAPs has killed this. There may be other things going on. Who knows? Maybe there are hybrids involved that are influencing people. I think if you step back from this for a minute and you look at these, if these hybrids are indistinguishable from humans and they have been on Earth for some time and they have been trained, are they executive assistants that are influencing, CEOs? We have a stovepiped security in all this UAP activity where none of these participants that are studying these vehicles and so forth know what the other participants are doing, and they're all stovepiped to the top, and they all meet with one person at the top. What if that person is being influenced by one of these hybrids or is a hybrid? I mean, you can see how entire information flows could be influenced by this, and actions. People working in the White House, are they hybrids? We don't know. How about the military? You can go crazy thinking about this, but again, I think the point Jacobs is concerned, and he's concerned that there is no formal study. Now, I just saw a recent presentation by a new abduction researcher, and she's not new. It's a female. She has been on the scene for a while. Was not aware of her. I believe she is a psychologist. I'm not sure, but she claims to be a hybrid at some level. Perhaps not a hybrid, but she claims that her mother was an abductee and that she had a fetus implanted in her, and that when this abduction study professional was born, her mother abandoned her because of this whole abduction regime she went through. And she did not know this when she was growing up as an adopted child, I imagine. But anyway, she ended up studying the abduction issue. So she's very interesting. I don't know her name. If I can find the information, I will put a link in that as well. So this is one new person that's studying abductions. Other than the MyLab abductions, I mean, Kathleen Turner, I believe her name is, PhD. She was studying abductions. She published a couple books, very hostile towards this whole activity, and she had kind of a mysterious death. She was another one. So there are not a lot of massive studies here. Again, the MyLab thing is off on a tangent, accusing, the secret space program or the military of doing this. But according to Jacobs, that is not so. So, anyway, David M. Jacobs, watch his videos, watch his interviews, go to his website, buy his books, support him, support his efforts, okay? And again, I have down here, no university or institute of higher learning, nor any PhD of any discipline is studying the abduction issue as of right now. So, Jacobs is upset about this. And this is Jacobs' quote, the critical quote, the nexus or whatever. They can make us do or think or forget anything against our will. And they can make us do or think or forget anything. Do or think or forget anything. So they can implant thoughts or concepts. They can make us do actions. They can make us forget actions that have been done. And this is all against our will. We have no will in this. And this is David Jacobs' quote. So, again, either concerning reality or really good science fiction. So it's up to you to make up your choice here. This is one of the original verified UAP photos. And shockingly enough, David Jacobs says, if you've seen a UFO at a close distance, you are likely a abductee. So, anyway, this is UAP. I hope you like these cliff notes. I'm going to try to include some extra information here. Follow the links in this video for other UAP videos. Thanks for watching this information. I hope you liked it. Now, you've seen this before. This is the home page of David M. Jacobs' website, and I've also done some clips. The books he has published are available here, links to them in any case, and I just want to put, this is a QR code. Oh, it's not showing up. Well, in any case, davidmichaeljacobs.com. www.davidmichaeljacobs.com is the location of this website There are other sources, links to this. I think it's abductees, alienabductees.com might be another, but David M. Jacobs, davidmichaeljacobs.com is certainly one. And you can see there's a lot of information here, and I just would think that this would be a good place to start with Dr. Jacobs, and you can see here typical abductions and the risks of knowing his bio, his books, so forth. There's a research blog that is fascinating. And again, Dr. Jacobs is at least semi-retired at this point. And again, we should support him for his lifelong work, by buying his books and visiting his website. He is interviewed on YouTube by a number of different people. And Oliver Stone's son did a great interview with him. One of his most recent interviews, and it's several years old, but what is the name of his web service? I think it's Buzzsaw or something like that. Sean Stone, I believe, is his name. Anyway, this is Dr. David Jacobs' website.